guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm so excited to do my first collab. Hopefully I can do more of these in the future. This is a Nina Nightmare special featuring creepy ghost stories. I hope you all enjoy and remember to subscribe to keep me in your nightmares.
This is bullshit. It's such a waste of my time. I complain to my publicist as I stare out the window. I've been sitting here at Page Turner Bookstore for the last hour, waiting for some fans to show up for my meet and greet and book signing. It started off slow. There were only about 10 people in line, but I expected it to pick up after a while. Boy, was I mistaken. Those 10 people were the only fans who showed up all night. I'm used to disappointment. I dropped out of college to live the life I've always dreamed of, the life of a writer. It took me a year to write my first masterpiece. Then I had the task of finding a publisher, which took me an additional 9 months of being rejected again and again. Even after that book didn't do so well, it only sold approximately 1,000 copies. I decided to write another because writing's my passion. My second book took me even longer, 3 years, and I'm thinking back, I believe it was a mistake to go with the same publisher. But it's too late to do anything about it now. I rise from my seat and grab my jacket from the back of the chair. My publicist, Daisy Romano, asks me as she scrolls through her phone.
Where do you think you're going? We're scheduled to be here for another hour.
I'm just taking a break, I tell her as I remove a cigarette and a pack of matches from my pocket. I head outside, breathing in the cool autumn air as I exited the bookstore. Daisy watches me closely through the glass window on the door. When she sees me take the last puff and put out my cigarette, she strolls outside. She despises the fact that I smoke. I lean on the windowsill covered with dead, wilted flowers and crunchy leaves. Daisy leans up against the brick wall next to me.
I'm proud of you,
she informs me. For what? I question with a laugh. She answers,
for not giving up, for following your dreams. Do you want me to keep going?
I nod my head. She admits with a smile.
I got nothing else.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, I reply.
No, but seriously, you're super talented. Don't let this one thing get you down,
she tells me. I thought you were a publicist, not a therapist, I say. She jokes.
Well, if you pay me more, I could be both.
I retort. I would pay you more if my book sold more copies. A group of people walk past us and head into the bookstore. I eagerly follow them, hoping that they're there for my book signing. They browse the store, strolling back and forth past my table. I feel like asking, would you like to purchase a book? No, I feel like begging. Please, buy my book. They leave without buying anything. Daisy and I sit around talking for the next hour. Then the owner comes over to tell us that she's getting ready to close. It's not like it mattered anyway. We hadn't had a customer for the last 2 hours. When we're finished packing up all my books into a box, I warn Daisy, don't you dare sign me up for one of these things ever again. I walk her across the parking lot to her car. And once she's safe inside, she rolls down her window and asks,
are we still having dinner tomorrow night?
Yeah, of course, I promise her. I've known Daisy for many years. We met when we were both in college. After I dropped out, she went on to graduate and earn degrees in journalism, public relations, and communications. She's worked for a big company before she came to work for me. We've been dating for the last year. She's a great inspiration. She always pushes me to do better and not to give up, which is something I feel like doing damn near every day. I bend down and kiss her softly on the lips. After watching her drive away, I pick up the box of books that I'd placed on the ground and haul it over to my car. Climbing inside, I think to myself, I can't keep doing this. I'm wasting my life away waiting for one of my books to become a bestseller. I toss the box into the passenger seat and just sit there for a minute. I thought you could be the one. I whisper as I lean over and graze the letters spelling out the title on the cover of my book. Murder on My Mind is my second book. You see, it's about a lunatic who ends up killing someone in self-defense, but then can't stop thinking about it and how good it made him feel. So he ends up becoming a deranged serial killer to fulfill his demented fantasies. Sounds interesting, right? Well, I guess. The book only sold about 2,000 copies. I grab a bottle of gin and a glass from the cabinet once I arrive home. Then I plop down on the couch and drown in my sorrow until I doze off sometime during the night. The next morning, I get a call from Daisy talking about some author's seminar that she's heard about. She urges me to go. She says she came across it online and think it'll be good for me.
You'll meet new people who are struggling with their writing as well, and maybe even someone that could help with publishing.
I think about it for a minute. I'd heard about these things before, and I've even been invited to a few, but I always declined to go. I feel like up-and-coming writers who are trying to perfect their craft attend these type of things, and I've been doing this for a long time. I know what I'm doing. Don't I? At least, I thought I did until Daisy made me start second-guessing myself. She tells me that the seminar is this evening. Well, what about dinner? We have reservations at your favorite restaurant. It took me a month to get them. I remind her, trying to find a way out of going. She tries to negotiate with me.
We can still go out to dinner before. The seminar doesn't start until 8, and dinner is at 6.
I tell her that I'll go if she comes with me. I can only imagine how boring these things are, especially if you go alone and don't already know anyone.
I can't. I have a meeting early tomorrow morning with the divorce attorney.
I forgot to mention that Daisy is currently going through a nasty divorce. She was married for 8 years, and although we remained friends during that time, I barely knew her ex. We only met on a few occasions, but from my first impression of the guy, he seemed like one of those Mr. Know-It-All types. Daisy came to work for me about 3 years ago, when a friend of mine recommended I should hire an assistant or a publicist. I've been doing it all myself before that, and it was finally starting to take a toll on me. I was apprehensive at first because I wasn't making the kind of money to pay for a publicist. But then Daisy contacted me out of nowhere and told me that she was looking for a new job, so I hired her on the spot. A year after that is when she told me that she was separating from her husband. So, it started as just a separation, then he ended up filing for divorce. Okay. I'll go if you think it'll help with promoting my book, I finally tell her.
I really do,
she answers. We say our goodbyes and I run a few errands before getting ready for dinner later that night. I pull up in front of Daisy's condo in a sleek midnight black limo. She smiles from ear to ear as I get out to open the door for her. She looks stunning. She's wearing a beautiful black and gold gown with the matching heels and handbag. Her long brown hair, which is usually in a ponytail, is pulled back into a bun and bundled at the nape of her neck with a fancy hair clip. 2 curly ringlets dangle out in front, one on each side of her face. I look pretty ordinary in my black tux. I grab the door handle with one hand, and with the other, I reach out for hers. She takes it, then steps down off the curb and slides into the limo. I check to make sure that no pieces of her dress are trailing behind before I close the door, and I walk around to the other side. You look gorgeous, I tell her as I slip into the seat next to her. We have an amazing time at dinner, I realized that I may have drank a little more than I anticipated when I stumbled out of the restaurant to the valet. I had planned on driving myself to the seminar, but decided to take a taxi instead. So I sent Daisy home in the limo, and then stand on the curb waiting for my ride. When it arrives, I check my texts from Daisy. I give the driver the address, then lay my head back on the seat and close my eyes. It wasn't my original plan, but it looks like I may be taking a little nap at the seminar. I doubt it could really help me anyway. We pull up in front of a large building, and after I pay the driver and walk inside, I follow the signs labeled "This Way" to Writer's Seminar. They guide me through the lobby, down a long hallway, to a conference room. The door is propped open, and I hear voices coming from inside. Before entering, I pop a few mints into my mouth. I see a large table in the back covered with an array of snacks and drinks, so I head that way and place a blueberry muffin into a paper plate and take some coffee just so that I don't look out of place. There's a decent amount of people here, maybe 50. As someone comes out from behind a curtain and speaks into a microphone at the podium up on the stage. The seminar will start momentarily. In the meantime, please enjoy the refreshments we have provided and use this time to network. I brought some business cards with me, but I'm not in the mood to have any conversations. I could tell that I'm going to wake up with a hangover tomorrow, and all I could think about at the moment is my bed. So I place my pile of business cards down on the refreshment table next to the coffee, and then I go find a seat. A woman sits down next to me and introduces herself as Lydia Monroe. Now the name sounds familiar, but I don't recognize her. Maybe I'd met her at another event. She asks me for my name, then she wants to know what I do. I take one of my business cards from my pocket and I hand it to her. I'm a writer. She raises her eyebrows. I assume that she's impressed. But then she tells me that she's never heard of me before. Well, that's a massive blow to my self-esteem. I don't know if she's noticed the look on my face or if she felt bad, but she apologizes. No need to apologize. Your name sounds familiar. What do you do? I ask her. She tells me that she's a ghostwriter. So, okay, let me get this straight. You do all the work, but you get no credit for it. She nods her head in agreement. And you're okay with that? I mean, does it at least pay well? Before she can respond, a man comes out onto the stage and clears his throat before speaking into the mic. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Donald Penn. Some of you may know who I am, some may not. For those of you who don't, let me take a minute to tell you about my work. All the people who are still loitering near the refreshment table in the back make their way to an empty seat in the audience as Mr. Penn continues. I have been doing this for a very long time. I won't tell you exactly how long, because, well, then you'll know just how old I really am. He pauses as a couple people in the crowd chuckle at his corny joke that I'm sure he probably repeats at every single seminar. And then he continues. But it's long enough that I consider this my area of expertise. I'm here tonight to reveal my tips to help struggling writers like yourselves. He goes on to talk about self-publishing. That's something that I may consider. Next, he talks about having a purpose to your writing. Authors write to either persuade, inform, or entertain. Both of my books were written to entertain. I start to doze off after that, but wake up shortly after and hear him mentioning something about details. I can't stress enough how important details are. They can either make or break a writer. Remember, the devil's in the details. After the seminar ends, some people wait around for one-on-one meetings with the speaker. I look for the woman, Lydia, who was sitting next to me. I wanted to continue our conversation, but she must have already left. I run into her outside, smoking a cigarette. She offers me a ride home, and I accept. She answers my question that I had asked earlier, telling me that she does enjoy her job as a ghostwriter, and it also pays pretty well. She's been doing it for a while now, 10 years, and she doesn't mind the fact that she doesn't get the credit for all of her hard work. That basically tells me that she's only in it for the money. Why would someone not want the credit for their own work that they took the time to write? I can't even fathom that. When we get to my place, I invite Lydia inside and offer her a drink. My chocolate lab, Comet, greets us as we walk through the door. Lydia declines the drink, but asks to use the restroom. While she's in there, Daisy calls, probably to see how the seminar went. I think about answering, but then push ignore when Lydia returns. We sit down on the couch and she asks me about my books. I get up and retrieve a copy of each from my bookshelf to show her. She says that she has to get going, but asks if it'd be alright if she took the books. She tells me that she'd like to read them. We exchange numbers, then she rises from the couch and heads towards the front door. I follow behind her, trying to be a gentleman and walk her out. Just as we're passing by the fireplace, one of the photos crashes to the floor and shatters. I kneel down to clean up the mess, and Lydia grabs the photo, flips it over, and shakes off the excess pieces of glass. She asks who's in the picture, and I reply, well, her name is Daisy. She's my publicist. She gives me a strange look like, why do you have a photo of your publicist at the beach in a revealing bikini? Well, she's also my girlfriend, I add. She seems caught off guard, so I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry if I have given you the wrong impression by inviting you over here. She gently places the frame back on top of the fireplace mantle.
It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not like you tried to hit on me. You just invited me in to talk about your book,
she says with a warm smile. I can't deny that the thought did cross my mind. Lydia is a beautiful woman, but I wouldn't do that to Daisy. She embraces me tightly, and when I attempt to pull away, she holds on tighter, not wanting the moment to end.
Good night,
she tells me after finally letting go. That night I can't sleep. I keep thinking about the seminar, and the same words keep replaying through my mind again and again. The devil's in the details. It gets me thinking, and I decide that my next book should be about the devil. I get up and grab my laptop from my desk, then stroll over to the living room, with Comet following close behind me. I can't sleep, so I might as well do something valuable with my time. I passed by Daisy's photo that had fallen from the fireplace earlier tonight, and I stop in my tracks when I notice that her eyes are missing. Right where her eyes should be are perfectly carved circles. I don't remember those being there after the glass had shattered, and a chill runs down my spine. My immediate thought is that maybe Lydia did it, but I was with her in the living room the entire time. The only time I turned my back was for a minute when I went to search the bookshelf, and she didn't know who Daisy was at that time because the picture fell afterwards. I double-checked to make sure all the doors and windows are locked. They are, so I get comfortable on the couch and start to type some notes for my new story. I dozed off sometime during the night and awake around noon the next day to the sound of someone violently pounding on my front door. I close my laptop, which already died sometime during last night, and throw on a t-shirt before opening it. It's Daisy. I'm not sure why she's knocking. I gave her a key a few months ago. She bursts inside, clearly angry, and starts screaming at me.
Why haven't you been answering any of my calls and texts? I thought something happened to you.
I stand in front of the fireplace trying to block her photos so that she doesn't see it and asks a million questions. She finally takes a breath, so I see it as an opportunity to get a word in. I'm fine. I was just really tired last night, so I came home and went to bed after the seminar. And then I woke up in the middle of the night with an idea for my new book. So I just started working on that, and then I fell back to sleep out here on the couch. Listen, I just woke up when I heard you at the door.
I didn't know you were working on a new book already. What's it about?
She curiously asks. And I reply, I think I want to write a story about the devil. Daisy doesn't approve of my subjects that I choose to write about. She doesn't care for all the violence, murder, and mayhem.
What made you want to write about that?
She questions. I tell her about the seminar last night and how it went. I'm not sure why, but I decide not to mention Lydia. There's just something that the speaker said. I just can't get it out of my head. He kept saying how important details are. The devil's in the details. He kept repeating that phrase throughout his whole speech.
I don't think he meant for you to go and write a book about the devil.
She clarifies. I know that's not what he meant, but that's just what I've decided I want to write about. I spend every waking moment immersed in writing the new book. I turn to Lydia for help for finding a reputable publisher. After meeting at the seminar, we remained in contact, occasionally going out to lunch or dinner together. She's even met Daisy, and they seem to like each other. Lydia recommends a publisher that she's worked with so many times, so I contact the man and he agrees to take a look at my book after it goes through the editing process. But during that time, I start to criticize everything that I've already written. I feel like something is missing, but I just can't pinpoint what it is. After reading it twice, I send a copy to the publisher with a note saying that I may add a few more things. I decide I need to go into more detail about the main character. After doing some extensive research on the devil, I could see what my story was lacking, and I grin at the thought of how much in-depth detail I can add to him now. I decide to take a break so I could get up and make some lunch. When I return, I catch Comet growling like a maniac at the open laptop, ready to attack. Get out of here, boy, I yell, swatting at him with the newspaper laying nearby. Damn dog better not break my computer. Just got this thing. I mumble as I sit back down and start writing. The great enemy of God is most commonly referred to as the devil or Satan, but he's also known by many other names. He's Lucifer, the Antichrist, the Prince of Darkness, Abaddon, Beelzebub, the father of lies, the ruler of the world. But no matter what you call him, he's a beast with even more faces than he has names. Best known as the nemesis of good people everywhere, his image and story have evolved over the years, but this malevolent being continues to strike fear in people from all walks of life, in people of almost any religion or even in those who don't follow one. The devil is almost always synonymous with fear, punishment, negativity, and immortality. Disease, decrepitude, and death are ultimately the responsibility of the devil. By his introduction of sin into the world, he brought about such woes. I hear something and get up to stretch and glance at the clock. I didn't realize how late it had gotten, so I head to the kitchen to go feed Comet dinner. I call out his name, but he doesn't come running to me like usual. After scouring the whole house and not finding him, I hear yelps and whimpering coming from the backyard. I realize I thought I heard those sounds while I was working on my book, and that's what must have snapped me out of my trance because I was so immersed in it. I head out to find Comet under the oak tree. There he lies, very peacefully sleeping. It's unusual for him to come outside and actually stay out there when I'm not accompanying him. He mostly only comes out to go to the bathroom. I whistle and call his name, but he just continues to lie there. The whimpering and yelping I'd heard, it sounded like he was in some kind of pain. Immediately, I think he must have been attacked by a wild animal, and so I approach him, scoop him up into my arms, and begin examining his body. He's barely breathing, but I don't see any bite marks. I carry him inside, wrap him up in a blanket, and head to the car so that I could take him to the vet. Unfortunately, he dies on the way there. The vet performs a necropsy, but finds nothing wrong with him. No health problems, no animal bites, nothing. He was only 3 years old and completely healthy. I continue to focus on my book full time, not only because I think it still needs some work, but it also keeps my mind off the fact that Comet is gone. The being known as Satan wasn't created as Satan. He was created good, but became bad. The Bible seems to indicate that the devil was the very first sinner. He was also once a beautiful angel of wisdom. His name, Lucifer, means morning star. He stood with God until he decided that he wanted to be above his creator. And that's when he was kicked out of heaven. Then his self-appointed mission became to destroy the human race in hell. So when attacked by depression, hate, anger, division, addictions, murder, all those nasty thoughts that come into the heart and head, it is the devil. He comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I glance at the clock. It's almost midnight. Who would be coming over this late without letting me know first? Maybe Daisy, I think to myself. When I open the door, I'm surprised to see Lydia standing there. She has a huge smile on her face.
He loves it. The publisher read it and he loves the book.
She squeals excitedly. Then she falls into my arms and wraps her arms around my neck, resting her head on my chest. The feeling of her body so close to mine soothes me more than I expect. She lifts her head up from my chest and gently kisses me on the lips, but within seconds I pull away thinking of Daisy. "What are you doing?" I ask her. She reaches into her purse and then says,
"Here, take this. It'll help you relax."
She shoves a tiny white pill into my mouth.
"Daisy will never have to know,"
she promises. Usually, I feel like I would have the willpower not to do something like this. I would never want to hurt Daisy. But there's this voice inside of my head that is nagging me, pushing me, telling me that it's okay. I start to feel dizzy when Lydia grabs me by the hand and pulls me toward the bedroom. She kisses me again, with more passion this time. Then the room begins spinning. I don't know whether it was the pill she gave me, but I swear I could smell the pheromones coming off of her, and the pure lust atmosphere engulfing the room. I just couldn't help myself. When I awake the next morning, Lydia is gone, but I have numerous missed calls from her. I decide to ignore them and work on my book. Days go by and everything is relatively quiet until I get a call from Daisy, and she is furious. She doesn't tell me how she knows, but she's already found out about the affair between Lydia and I. Now, of course, I deny it, but she doesn't believe me. She tells me that she doesn't want to see me anymore and that I should find a new publicist. She suggests Lydia might be good for the job. After hanging up the phone, I feel careless and free. Not guilty or remorseful like I should feel after cheating on my girlfriend. I suddenly think to myself that maybe, just maybe this is a good thing. Now I'll have even more time to focus on my book, not having to worry about keeping a woman happy. The next time I sit down to work on my book, which is a few weeks later, I read over all the details that I've added so far. The book is beginning to sound good. I mean, really good. But I just feel like I haven't gotten the devil's character right yet. So I continue to add on to the book. He could steal the word of God right out of your head. He could cause tragic situations to happen that end up killing you. He can destroy relationships and things that you cherish. I stop writing for a moment. I think about that last line that I wrote. Daisy comes to mind first, and then comment. I continue typing. So, what does the devil really look like? The mention of him tends to evoke images of red, pitchfork-wielding maniac with horns and a tail. But, contrary to popular belief, he isn't an ugly creature. Actually, he's not limited to any one physical form or image. But I can't help but to think of him as a dapper man. And so, I create him as I see him, since I couldn't find any information that suggests what he would look like in human form. He has curly blonde hair, pristinely brushed to the back with 2 strands cascading down over his forehead and stopping right above his mix-matched eyes. One dirty gray that appears void of any sympathy, but full of wisdom, and the other hazel, which seems as though it radiates love and sincerity. Both give off one thing for sure: confidence. He wears an all-white suit excluding the jacket. Instead, he sports a white vest with a flashy gold dress shirt underneath and red cufflinks with a red handkerchief slightly sticking out of his breast pocket. He dons the finest pair of dress shoes you've ever seen. They're gold trimmed in red with white bottoms. That, whatever the case, never seem to get dirty. But no matter how much he tries to convey a trustworthy smile, the malevolent grin and vile black tongue always seem to give him away. It's the only thing he can't change about his appearance from all the poison and lies that spew from it. My phone suddenly rings, startling me. It's Daisy's ex-husband. I can't think of any reason that he'd be calling me. I answer, and he goes on to explain that Daisy has been found dead. What happened? I questioned, shocked, and he replies, she's committed suicide. Her neighbor found her in the garage. She died from carbon monoxide poisoning. The police found a note. Well, what did it say? I ask, curious, and he answers, I'm sorry. And that's all it said. I just thought I should let you know since you two were such good friends. He ends the call and I stand there in utter disbelief, feeling guilty that I hurt her and thinking that she must have done this because of me. While grieving Daisy's death, I begin to have terrible nightmares. One in particular really stands out. The other night I fell asleep while working on my book. Suddenly my eyes flutter open and there's a woman standing on top of my chest crying. The pressure is so painful, it feels as though my lungs may collapse. I can barely breathe. Her face is lowered and hidden by her grimy, unkempt hair. When she finally raises her head to look at me, she has no face. But I could still hear the crying. The atmosphere in the room is gloomy and foreboding. Then she lifts her hands high in the air like she's ready to attack me, but she doesn't. Instead, she begins to rip out her own insides. Blood and pieces of skin fly everywhere, sticking to the walls and ceilings. She keeps clawing away at herself even after there is nothing left to claw. I lay there frozen in terror, not sure what else is going on around me because I'm unable to move. And that's when I wake up scared shitless. For some reason, I just can't seem to shake the feeling that the woman from the nightmare reminded me a lot of Daisy. I know it was only a nightmare, but it freaked me out so badly that I went and purchased a gun the very next day. Now I sleep with it under my pillow each night, and I make sure to carry it with me every time I leave the house. Lydia has been coming around a lot more too. It feels good to have someone to talk to. She invites me out one night, I decline, but she practically drags me out the door, promising that it'll help me forget about everything that has been going on lately. We arrive at a nightclub and I follow Lydia to the front of the line. She knows the bouncer and he allows us to enter the club ahead of the rest of the patrons. As soon as we get inside, I feel out of place. The music is blaring and it's so crowded I quickly lose sight of Lydia. A moment later, she grabs me by the hand and guides me to a group of men sitting at a table in the back of the club. She hands one of them some money, and in return, they hand her a baggie of white pills. We walk back through the dance floor to the bar and order some drinks. The bartender places a martini down in front of Lydia, and while I'm waiting for her to make my drink, Lydia pops 2 of the pills from the baggie into her mouth. Then, she kisses me, sliding them into mine. As she slips the baggie of pills into my pocket, I wash them down with my drink. I've always had trouble getting pills down, even if I had a headache. I could barely get down an Advil. And plus, I was never into drugs. The first time I tried them was when Lydia gave me one of her pills. Then, out of nowhere, she begins talking about Daisy. It catches me off guard because, although they knew each other, they weren't the best of friends. Then she reveals something that totally shocks me.
We went out to lunch a few weeks ago. She seemed really happy. She couldn't stop talking about you. Then I saw her again right before she died, and she told me that the 2 of you were no longer together. I didn't tell her this because she already seemed really upset, but she didn't deserve you anyway. She never believed in you the way that I do.
My mind begins to race. I had a feeling that Lydia may have told Daisy about our affair, but now she all but confirmed it. Did you tell her about us? I blatantly ask. She smiles and replies,
Maybe.
I grip her tightly by the arm. Why would you do that? I angrily question.
Why are you mad? We can be together now.
Why am I mad? Are you serious? She kills herself, and I can't help but think it was because of the fact that we slept together. I scream at her. I storm out of the club and hail a taxi. Lydia calls and stops by many times over the next week, but, well, I'm done with her. I try to focus on my book, but it seems like the only time I can anymore is when I've taken some of those pills Lydia gave me, and I've run out of them. Now I feel sick. I've been having cold sweats, hallucinations, and I'm tired all the time. On top of all of that, my publisher is on my ass about getting the book finished by the next deadline, which is in only 2 weeks. Maybe I should just call Lydia and tell her I need more pills, just enough to last me until the book is finished. But then I'd be forced to see her, trying to avoid her at all costs. She's nuts. I could just get some myself, but I wouldn't even know who to talk to or where to go. Lydia always had the pills with her. Later that night, I get to the point where I just can't take it anymore. So I head to the street where the club is located, that I went to with Lydia the other night. As I stagger down the block looking to cop a fix, someone steps out of the shadows. I can't see a face, just the outline of their body. I assume they're wearing a costume because I see horns protruding from their head and a tail dangling from their backside. When they turn around, I recognize them, and what stands out to me the most are those distinctive shoes that would look too gaudy and tacky on anyone else, but on him, they look elegant and distinguished. He summons for me to follow. I'm led around the corner to a group of people. I search the group for him, but he's gone. I rub my eyes and look again, but there's still no sight of him. One of the men from the group asks me, "Hey, what are you looking for, man?" I hand him a wad of money and reply, "Well, whatever this can get me. I just need something to get my head straight." He hands me a baggie full of white pills. They look just like the ones Lydia had, so I thank the man and head back around the corner towards the club. I bite one in half and immediately feel pure bliss. I'm never doing this again, I think to myself as I slide the baggie into my pocket. And I plan on saving the rest for when I make it home, so that I'll be able to finish my book. I spot an attractive brunette standing in line waiting to get into the club, and she smiles and waves at me. Well, I figure, why not make a night of it? I feel like I need to ease my mind from some of the craziness that I swear I just witnessed. So I approach the woman and her friends and tell them that I could get into the club. They gleefully follow me to the front of the line and then inside. Her friends go off to the bar and she remains at my side. She tells me her name, but I don't remember. We hang out all night dancing, drinking, and talking. Then she invites me back to her place. When we get inside, I take the other half of the pill from earlier, and she asks me what they are. Assuming that they're the same pills Lydia had provided me with many times before, I respond. Perk 15s.
Can I have one?
She asks. I debate for a moment whether I'd like to share. I have a decent amount left, so I guess one more won't make a difference. After removing one from the baggie, she sticks out her tongue and I gently place the pill onto it. She swallows it and we begin to kiss. But a little while later, she complains that she isn't feeling anything from the pill. So she asks for another, and I tell her to go ahead and grab one while I go take a leak. When I return, I notice that I only have a few pills left. So, she took a couple of them while I was gone. I'm angry. I'm about to tell her that she has to pay me back when she pounces on me. The room starts to spin, and the last thing I remember is her ripping my clothes off. The next morning, I awake to my head throbbing and the sun beaming in my face. I had another nightmare last night. The devil was lurking in the shadows, pointing and laughing at me. He saw my every hope, dream, wish, love, and conviction, and he laughed at their insignificance. I glance over and see that the girl I went home with last night is still sleeping naked on the pull-out couch next to me. I catch sight of a coffee pot in her kitchen, get dressed, and head over there to make some. When it's done brewing, I try to wake her up, but I'm shocked to feel that her body is cold to the touch. I violently shake her, and then in an act of desperation, I slap her across the face. My heart begins to beat out of my chest as her head bobbles back and forth. What in the hell happened last night? I vaguely remember us taking the pills and she was fine. Wait, the pills? She took more than I did. I knew it was a bad idea, but she told me she knew what she was doing. She said that she takes the same pills all of the time. Once the realization sinks in that what I bought must have been something other than Perk 15s, I grab the baggie with the pills and rush over to a laptop that I see sitting on the desk in her living room. Thankfully, she's already logged in, so I type into Google, pill identifier website. I click on the first website that pops up and type the description of the pills into the search bar, and then I press enter. The results shock the hell out of me. The pills I bought are actually Perk 30s. How in the hell was I supposed to know what I was buying? I know nothing about drugs. Now I know that the pills are what killed her. I looked around in a panic, frantically searching for somewhere, anywhere to get rid of the body. I refuse to go to jail over something that isn't even my fault. I thought they were Perk 15s. I didn't even know. This is all that drug dealer's fault. He should have told me what I was buying. As I grab the woman's hands and get ready to drag her off the couch so that I could clean up the bed and get rid of any evidence that I was there, there's a knock at the door.
Becky, are you in there? Becky, I saw you come home with some cute guy last night. Did you have fun?
A female voice questions. I stand there in complete silence, afraid to breathe. After waiting a few minutes, they finally leave and I go back to cleaning up the crime scene. I grab all the blankets from the couch and toss them into a garbage bag, then turn the bed back into a couch and place her on it to make it look like she just fell asleep there. Then I find some Lysol wipes in the kitchen and vigorously wipe down everything that I remembered touching, assuming the nosy girl who came to the door is probably still lurking around outside, or at least peeking out the window every time she hears something. I find a towel to cover my face, and am just about to go out the back door when I remember the computer. I delete the search history, then change my mind and just grab the computer to take with me. So not only is the woman dead, but now I'm stealing her stuff too. I just don't see any other choice. Police have their ways of finding out what was searched on a computer, and I'm not taking any chances of getting caught. I dump the trash bag into a dumpster and smash the laptop into pieces in the back alley. It takes me forever to find my way to the part of town that I recognize, and I pray that no one has seen me. But it seems like lately, ever since I started writing this new book, none of my prayers have been answered. I just am plagued with constant tragedy and misfortune. Once I make it home, I collapse into bed, and when I finally awake, I realize that days have gone by. I check the news for any mention of the woman, and find that her body was discovered 2 days after she died when the police were contacted to perform a welfare check. The woman's name has been released, but there's no other information at this time. I feel somewhat relieved that there is no mention of a homicide or foul play. I'm sure the autopsy results will lead everyone to believe that she died of an overdose. I decide I need to get out of the house and get some air, so I head to a local coffee shop to continue working on my book there. Before leaving, I take 2 pills to help me relax and stay focused. I'm in the home stretch, and the book is, it's almost perfect. When I enter the coffee shop, it's pretty crowded. I approach the barista at the counter and order a latte, and find a somewhat quiet place to sit in the corner of the shop. I sip out my latte as I begin to type. One of the most neglected subjects is the personality of the devil. The devil is a very arrogant individual, but I say that in the best way possible. He manifests superiority and dominance. He may have a temper and a thief, but he's also confident and proud. Satan will do all that he can to bring defeat into our lives. He's constantly battling for the soul of a sinner and the life of a saint. His work is to deceive humans, and he has many subtle and cunning ways to accomplish the job. He speaks as if he knows he's always right, and that is because he's very wise. And that accent? Where is it from? Well, no one place in particular. You see, it is universal, which you think you wouldn't be able to understand, yet somehow when it flows out, you understand every single word. I pause to take another sip of my latte, just as a man in a stylish white suit approaches my table. As he begins to speak, I look up and nearly spill my coffee right into my lap. You are my favorite author, he tells me with a sinister smile. I stare for a moment in disbelief, then finally respond with a stutter. I can't believe it's you. Thank you so much. He sits down across from me and then continues. You have made me so very proud. No one besides you has ever gotten me so right. For that, I want to give you something. I quickly reply. There's no need for that. Your presence is the greatest gift of all. He doesn't seem to be flattered by my comment. He just ignores it and goes on. My gift to you is that whenever your time shall come, Your soul is guaranteed to join me in hell. Then he rises from his chair, and as he turns to walk away, I feel a relief wash over me as I type the last words of my novel, even knowing that one day my soul is destined to go to hell. I have created a work of art, a masterpiece. Chills run down my spine as I think about this book becoming a bestseller. I know that it's worthy enough. After saving the story and then quickly emailing it to the publisher, I close my laptop and gently place it into my briefcase. Next, I retrieve the only other item inside. Just then, a dozen police cars speed into the parking lot. I feel solace as I lift the gun to my head and I pull the trigger.
Special thanks to Creepy Ghost Stories. Remember to check out his channel and subscribe for new original stories 3 times a week. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.